As Andrew mentioned, the inflation data for the June quarter is in. Prices rising 0.8% over the past 3 months. The annualised figure, though, remains stubbornly high at 6%, albeit it's coming down. Let's bring in the Shadow Treasurer Angus Taylor, who's been good enough to come in and is on the mend. I noticed the cast there. Came off the bike.
Came off the bike, but I'm on the mend. Doing good, Tom.
Good to know. So 0.8%, it's actually just above the target rate if you annualise it out. That would be 3.2% if that continues. Does it show the plan from the government is working?
No, because the inflation in the last 12 months is running at 6%. Prices are going up, not down. Don't be fooled by some of the spin around this, Tom. We've still got stubbornly high inflation. Deep concerns about where that might go. Labor productivity going sharply backwards. We haven't seen anything like this in modern history. And so the concerns that have been expressed about this by a large range of people are very real, and Australians are feeling it. I mean, if you look at the cost of housing you just talked about, but the cost of food, the cost of energy, the cost of insurance, the cost of household equipment, all of these things rising fast. And of course, out on the ground, I see every day. This is pain that Australians feel every time they go to the checkout, every time they pay a bill. And this is inflation that is coming from Canberra. And it's not just the job of the Reserve Bank to deal with it. It's the job of the government.
So the figure there, that the most reliable data we still have is quarterly, even though monthly is done. Quarterly inflation actually peaked in March 2022, when you were last in power. It hasn't gone above that 2.1% since. So it's not as if on those figures Labor's lit a fire up under inflation. When they came in, it was very high. It hasn't gone higher since.
Good paraphrasing of the Labor talking points, Tom. But here's the reality. Australians are feeling cost of living pressures like they weren't feeling a year ago. There is no question about that. Inflation is higher than it was when Labor came into government. Don't listen to this. But let me go through the facts here, because you went through facts, which are the Labor talking points. I'll go through the facts.
Well, they are you can call them the facts, though.
Look, the truth is Australians feel inflation at a pace and in a way that they weren't feeling it when Labor came into government, and they're feeling it across a broad range of categories. Now, here's the test. Get it back into the range. It's not back in the range. Let's be clear. The annual figure of 6% is double the range. And no one's claiming it's in the range. Secondly, that it stays there, because if you haven't dealt with the source of the problem, you're only dealing with the symptoms, the chances of it staying there is slim. And thirdly, that you don't bring the economy to a halt. Now, Labor's already failing on those simple tests. We've got an economy that's going backwards in GDP per capita, backwards in GDP per capita. That's the economy that people feel at the household level. We've got inflation running hot, and inflation running faster than wages. So real wages are going backwards. So that's the reality of the situation. Meanwhile, we've got Labor that has lost interest in productivity, has completely lost interest in it.
There's a lot there. If I can just jump into one part of it. You mentioned GDP per capita. It's an interesting measure because, as you said, it's how people feel. But, I mean, GDP per capita went backwards at times during the coalition. I never heard a coalition minister mention that. They preferred to go by the fact that GDP was still growing.
Why? They've got talking points again, but let me give you the alternative.
Can you cite a time when a minister during the coalition said, we must admit it's tough, you should note that GDP per capita
What people feel on the ground is GDP per capita, and it's going backwards. There's no question about that. And the truth of the matter is, Tom, that we have not seen an economic situation like this. 6% annualised inflation, GDP per capita going backwards. We haven't seen that. And this is what Labor is failing to deal with. Now, what should they be doing? Well, first of all, don't rely on the Reserve Bank. Focus on those many levers that the government has. What are they? Productivity is a critical one. It's gone back 4.6% in the last year. 11% gain when we were in government, almost half of that lost. Labor productivity
the trend of productivity when you were in government
was going forward.
Yes, but the increases were shrinking.
It was going forward, and it's gone back.
Through the 2010s, if you look at productivity, it was going up higher in the 2000s than it was in the 2010s. It was slowly dropping off.
Tom, in the last 12 months, we've lost 4.6% in Labor productivity. Now, Philip Lowe has pointed out in a speech he gave a number of weeks ago, this is a huge barrier to sustainably reducing inflation whilst having a strong economy.
Yeah, well, he says you can't have wage rises without productivity.
You can't.
Do you think productivity was going well into the coalition in that decade?
Well, let me tell you, it wasn't going back at 4.6%.
That's not the question, though.
Well, but that is the question, because
but it's not the question.
That is the comparison that we have. Now, we have never before, since the data series started, if you want to go into the detail, I'll go into the detail. The data series started in 1978. We have never seen a 4.6% drop in productivity that we've seen in the last 12 months. That's what you're seeing right now. Getting inflation back under control with a strong economy and keeping inflation within the target range when you've got that kind of situation. And let me tell you, it gets worse, because the Productivity Commission brought down their 5-yearly landmark report only a short while ago, as you know, a few months ago. Jim Chalmers and the Prime Minister have not even taken a briefing on that. We've asked for a briefing. They haven't even taken a briefing on that report, and they are now clearly indicating to the Productivity Commission they want to focus on all sorts of other things.
On the